So you're looking for some help and guidance in your leadership role in leading your team. Maybe you're new to the job and you don't have access to formal leadership training. And you would very, very much love to have that kind of leadership training or a coach by your side who could actually help you do the first steps, or if you're intermediate or advanced level, give you more guidance on that level so you can make further steps to creating a high performance team. Maybe you have to do with people from different cultures, different generations. Maybe you have conflicts and communication issues in your team, and you'd very much appreciate somebody by your side and looking over your shoulder, giving you mentoring, but also giving you good questions for self-reflection. NavCoach has been created because in every leadership training, people need to do some self-study like you're doing on e-learning. But then the small group breakout sessions start. So people talk with each other about their learnings, about their self-awareness, about the questions and feelings that they have, sharing with each other, learning from each other. And that part is so valuable, and it takes you a long way already to that leadership practice. And especially if you do this with your own team. Now, of course, not all content can immediately be reflected in your team. Some stuff is private. We know this from the Johari window, that some of the stuff you just don't want to share. Some of the things you discover inside yourself, you want to hold on to you, and that's pretty much normal. But the thing is, as you discuss more in a peer group and with a team, you're beginning to open up more of that. And that deepens the learning, and you're suddenly realizing you're not alone with whatever you perceive and feel and think and experience. And that part, actually, NavCoach is integrating that in your learning. And you don't need to search on the internet. You just take this from me and 30 years of experience, and then you just trust that if that guy has done it with so many leaders and so many companies, that stuff must be at least 80% good. Now, I guarantee you, in my view, it's a lot more than 80%. But that's all up to you to decide. The one thing that it takes, though, is a big one. If you're sent to formal leadership training, normally the trainer takes you by your hand and says, well, you do this exercise, now you invest that time, you come in for the next half hour, for the next 3 hours, for 8 hours, and then we do things together, and there is little escaping. It's not easy to escape from a group where you're in a formal leadership training. When you have NavCoach in everyday life, there are so many distractions, so many points in your calendar, so many entries, and there's always a call from the customer distracting you further and dragging into what you feel is really urgent and important. And yes, it is. Now, I'll ask you one question. Why then is it that you're going to a leadership training with a trainer present and then you're staying there? What's the difference? Now, the difference, in fact, already is a leadership discipline. Your self-discipline and commitment to your own learning process. Many of the things that we will do here are actually process. When I give you content to reflect upon, that's already intrapsychological process. Inside you, you're creating some sort of experience, you're experiencing what I give you, you're reflecting it, you're coming up with thinking and feeling and an impulse of what you want to do with that. And that's what e-learning does too. And then the next step actually is process already. You go take that inside experience and begin to share it with a small group. If you're a leader without a peer group, then your opportunity actually is to do this step with your own team. I admit that's a bigger step to take than in a peer group where people are unbiased and normal and they don't really experience you in your work life. And so they come in more like neutral, like coaches, and they don't judge you so easily. When you do this with your team, it's a little bit more of a challenge. But here's the thing. Trust is a cycle. And it requires some basic trust for trust to be created and strengthened and reinforced. And if you give some basic initial trust in your team and in your team learning, then there is the opportunity for you to build more trust. And as I guide you through this whole process of different topics, leadership topics and team topics, you can take more and more confidence and trust, put it into your team discussions, and see that the team actually is happily taking it up. I know you're making yourself vulnerable with that, but that's exactly what it takes to build a team. Eventually, there is no escaping from that. So why not start now? You're getting all this facilitation from NavCoach and all the content from NavCoach at a fraction of the money that you would have to pay for formal leadership training, and that a company that actually gives you that formal leadership training would have to pay for it. I admit it's not the 100% of the whole learning process because it misses the training with the trainer. But it's at least 50% of that learning process. I would say if you do this with your team a lot, it replaces much of the formal leadership training practice part and puts it right into your team where the implementation matters and brings you to a better success, brings you to a high performance team and the trust and the psychological safety that you actually want there, and the mindset and accountability of the people in the team, because they feel this is a good team. This is not just a family. This is a team where I can perform, where I can be myself, where I can speak truthfully, and people listen to me, and my points are taken serious, and I'm trying to take accountability for achieving our goals. And so this is actually more powerful. The only investment that is required from your side is the self-discipline and the commitment to your own learning process. For every one of the topics that's listed here in NavCoach, which would be half a workshop day, you would make an entry in your calendar where nobody can disturb you. At least half a day. And I would recommend take a point in your calendar, take a time in your calendar without pressure in advance and pressure at the end of it. Because if you're jumping out of your learning process and you already need to jump into the next board meeting, it doesn't give you the peace of mind and inner calm to really reflect and think about personal development stuff. And that's what NavCoach does. Personal development stuff, team development stuff, growth, learning, reflection. This is not about performing all the time. This is about insight. And then ideally, most of that stuff is actually done for teams. Invite your team to that workshop, give them the same reflections, give them the same tasks, assignments, and self-assessments, and study the group instructions that I'm giving you, and then get together as the group or team and reflect together, discuss together, and come up with learnings, what you're taking out of this, share these learnings. This part of the process is really, really important. You need to be transparent in your experience in the team for people to develop that kind of trust. And so sharing the learnings at the end of each workshop would be very, very important. How about the whole timing? We have more than 10, 15 topics in these three levels: essentials, intermediate, and advanced. And I would think you can't do this in half a year. Every topic would be at least a half-day workshop for your team and you, with yourself preparing both the content a little bit, but also the facilitation of the workshop, because I can't do it personally. You have to facilitate and be the timekeeper. I can instruct what's the next step, but we have to work together in this. But you're in the driver's seat, and I'm your assistant and co-pilot. I'm also your coach because I give you the content and instructions and the reflections. And so after such a workshop, you would take at least 2 months before you want to go into the next workshop, because your team needs to digest that, right? So the next workshop you would schedule around 2 or 3 months later. Even the first couple of workshops will transform your team thinking and your team performance, mindset in your team, the way you communicate with each other, the way you trust each other. That already is a big achievement. And the more you do this, the more you will like the outcome, the more you will like the process and how it actually transforms you as a team. And then you will do more of that. So you can do this all from within, which I believe is the best possible team development process you can get. It's always good to have an outsider as an unbiased, impartial, and experienced observer of organizational and team realities. Get some feedback and ideas from him, listening to you in the real world, giving you specific hints. Now, I don't deny the value of importance. It's my job. But NavCoach has been created to take you quite a long way from having no skill set at all, no support at all, to being really, really good. I would think it's a lot more than 50%. I would think it's 80%. 80% of your learning can happen like this, at a fraction of the cost of formal leadership training and coaching. Now you think about this. If you do decide to invest into this course, make a commitment with yourself and put it in your calendar. Half-day workshops with preparation that you do, and the workshops with your team for at least one, probably more than 1 year, ideally 2 years. But on the way, you will make so much good experience, and so I will have so many learnings and performance and improvements in your team, your confidence as a leader, and your trust and team cohesion will be so much better that you will feel, wow, this is a really good process. Why do I say this? I've done this with so many leaders and teams in my life, and I know it's not the content. The content is important, but the real benefit lies in the continuation of the process. This is not an event. This is a process of development that involves your personal development as a leader and is actually integrated in your team's development. NavCoach has selected topics with really well thought through and well designed workshop settings that you just follow that and you don't have to search much on the internet anymore. There is good guidance. The guidance I give you here, I've done with so many companies and their leaders, and it always boils down to the same questions that leaders have. So no matter which group you meet in which country, which company, eventually leaders have the same questions around the world. And NavCoach's process and the content I've selected for you is exactly based on what do leaders really need with their teams. That's it. If you do decide for NavCoach and going through this consistently and with commitment, I assure you, you will be very, very successful and happy with it.